Hi, and welcome to the section 5 of diving into JSF API video course named Get Started with JSF and AJAX. In this section, we will cover the interaction between AJAX and JSF. By combining AJAX and JSF, we can write single-page applications and rich internet applications. But in order to accomplish this, we need to cover several topics dedicated to the AJAX tag and its attributes. Now we move on to the first video of this section and we will have a quick introduction. So let's get started with JSF and AJAX. In this video, we will try to define and highlight the strong relationship between JSF and AJAX. You need to achieve very good skills on this field, because combining these two powerful technologies can lead to great applications. Well, the AJAX request response cycle is defined by the partial processing and partial rendering stages. This means that AJAX partially affects the current view, and AJAX requests are not typical JSF requests because they follow a different lifecycle dictated by the partial view context class. The methods of this class know how to deal with AJAX requests, which means that they are responsible for solving partial processing and rendering of the component tree. The main part of an AJAX request is represented by two attributes of the AJAX tag, execute and render. The execute attribute indicates the components that should be processed on the server side. This is partial processing, while the render attribute indicates the components that should be rendered or re-rendered on the client side. This is partial rendering. The simplest JSF AJAX example can be written in a matter of a few seconds. For example, let's consider a JSF form with an input text and a button that sends the user input to the server. The user input, which is a string, is converted by the server to uppercase and is displayed to the user in an output text component. This simple example can be written by any JSF developer, and the AJAX version can look like below. Notice that we have used the AJAX tag. The AJAX tag will transform this request into an AJAX request. Well, it is true that this request is not very useful because we didn't specify which components should be executed and which components should be re-rendered. But the good part is that you will not receive any exception. JSF will use the default values for the execute and render attributes, which means that JSF will process the element that triggered the request and will render nothing. By adding the execute attribute with the value of the input text ID tag, we'll tell JSF to pass to the server the user input. This means that the user input will be available in the AJAX action method, and it will be converted to uppercase. You can check the effect of this method in the application server log, because it is not visible on the client side since the render attribute still defaults to nothing. So you need to add the render attribute and indicate the IDs of the components that should be rendered. In this case, the output text with the ID name output ID. Okay, let's see the application running. So, as you can see in the index page, we have three cases of the same scenario. In the first case, we don't specify the render and execute attributes. In the second case, we specify only the execute attribute. And in the last case, we use both execute and render attributes. And we also have a simple bin. Okay, let's run the code. Now let's see what is happening in the first case. Because render is not used, the default behavior will submit only the parent component of the AJAX tag, so the typed name will not hit the bin. Now let's see the second case. In this case, the typed name hits the bin, since we explicitly specified that the execute attribute should submit the input field. But the name is not displayed in the user interface, since the render attribute acts as default. And finally, the last case. Now we can see the name in uppercase in the interface, because we explicitly specified that we want to re-render the output text component capable to display the name. So this is how the AJAX tag works. In this video, we had a quick introduction in Java Server Faces and AJAX. In addition, we saw a simple example that contains the fundamental knowledge about this topic.